Hello, lovely people. Today we will be listening to some tweeters. So since I don't have my own laboratory, garage, or studio or listening room, I have to share my laboratory with the best experimental physicist there is, which is my 4-year-old daughter. And alongside her experiments, I'm doing my own. So for example, her experiments include how much tape does it take to make a chair out of sponge, or determining the stiffness of the foam required for the doilies to sit comfortably on my fuse cover. Okay, so anyway, I made this, and funny thing is, I posted a picture of this thing in one of the car audio groups, and I got a lot of shit because people were saying that you cannot test tweeters like that, you cannot listening to this, you have to, like Erin has a clip hole, so you have to have something like that, or like you have to use an AEC baffle. So this is my NOBS baffle. DIY grade and certified, and basically this is how I'm gonna listen to some tweeters and try to evaluate them. However, this is going to be slightly different because I will let you to listen to the sound as well. So usually I share only measurements, but in this video I'm going to share the actual sound and you're going to hear it for yourself. So yes, this is not perfect. However, AEC baffle, like the big baffle according to the standards and everything, this is not a baffle. Yes, I put this one just for testing, but like if you see any kind of speaker, it's not an AEC baffle, it's not like infinite baffle, it's just a speaker. So if you take this baffle in sections, if I'm gonna tilt the camera like this, and you would cover this and this part looks like a speaker, yeah? Then you turn like this part looks like a speaker. So the whole idea behind this baffle was to make the acoustical sensors the same distance for each tweeter. And because I'm planning to listen to only to the tweeters and then incorporate the mid-range, which is in open baffle configuration. So just to have like the crossover is going to be very, very low because it's just for testing. But the main thing is just to make sure that if I'm going to have some crossover cancellation or whatever, it's going to happen at the same place for all the drivers. And this baffle is symmetrical for all four corners. That means that even if it's not ideal, ideally you probably would want to rotate the baffle to have like the same alignment. But even if it's not ideal, I think for listening, for evaluating is perfectly good enough. Now let me show you from the back. I have some connections. So this is the woofer that James sent me from CCA. It's a very cool woofer. Very nice looking. It plays very high, so it's very easy to cross it. And I have these 4 tweeters. So these tweeters, if you haven't seen, watch my video before when I was talking about Chinese beryllium tweeters. And I have, because this is Chinese beryllium tweeter and this one. So they're kind of the same, so I tested only one. So we have the Chinese beryllium tweeter. We have the Chinese ceramic tweeter. We have the SB Acoustics SB19 Silk Dome tweeter. And we have this Chinese ring radiator tweeter. And what I did is, I connected it in a bit of a janky way. But the main thing is I have this thing. So this thing, it's a simple switch that connects and disconnects the connections. So I have, if you can see, 5 connections. One is basically coming in, oh sorry, and then it connects either to this, to this, to this, whichever button you press, it basically connects to that. So I have 4 tweeters, which is 4 of these. This is only a positive wire. So 4 tweeters, it's just because I had this cable, and basically it connects whichever tweeter. So for example, let me just very quickly demonstrate. I have something playing here. Oh, so I'm playing through SMSL on coax and it's going into the Alpine DSP. And I'm playing some royalty-free music with whatever I found. And we will be listening. But for example, if I'm gonna press, oh, it's very difficult one-handed. Come on. 1. Oh, the song finished. Okay. 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. So you can see basically it plays whatever button I press, the tweeter plays. So it's connected in a way that the first one is the first one, second one, third one, and fourth one. And what I'm going to do is we're going to listen to some music and to some pink noise. And we're going to kind of subjectively evaluate the sound, how it sounds. So in the first round, what we're going to do is we're going to do, without the woofer, only the tweeters. So I have the tweeters crossed at 1K, a 12 dB slope. So very shallow, extremely low. But for low levels, it's perfectly fine. It's not an issue at all. Just to have a listen. And I hope that the phone is going to translate the sound good enough for you to hear. And the main thing is to remember that this listening test is not ideal, it's not perfect, but it's just for comparison reasons, just to compare these 4 tweeters. So let's have a look. I don't know how to show you and have the phone in the same place. Number 1. So number 1, to me, it sounds normal, natural, a lot of top end. It goes down all the way down to 1K. So it nothing really like peaks or like there's no dips that I can hear. It's like it sounds kind of normal. Now, if I switch to number 2 from number 1, number 2 sounds very similar. So these, number 1 is the beryllium and number 2 is the ceramic. And they sound very, very similar. The main difference that I can hear between number 1 and number 2 is something on the lower end towards like 1K or maybe below, that number 1, the beryllium one, sounds a bit more fuller in there, and the ceramic, it feels like it falls off a bit more sharply, so you don't have that I want to say like upper mid-range or something. So that's, let's try again. Number 1. Switch to number 2. Yeah, so number 2 to me sounds not more bright, but it might sound a bit more bright because of the difference in the lower end. But the level is kind of the same. Now let's jump to number 3. So number 1, 2, and now 3. Number 1, number 3. So to me, number 3 sounds more flat, and it looks like it has a bit more that upper mid-range, like something like 1-2K, and not as much the very, very top end. It's not that sparkly, I want to say. To me personally, number 1 and 2 sound much better than number 3. And now number 4, let's jump from 1 to 4. So with number 4, I can talk over it, and you can hear that it seems like number 4 doesn't play as much. So obviously the volume sounds like it's lower in volume, so it's not on the same level. These all three kind of sound kind of similar level. This may be a little bit lower, but this, it sounds like it doesn't, to me it sounds like it has a lot of top end. So like if you imagine like a frequency response, and like all these three is going to be like, it looks like flat, but this one, it sounds like it's going up, and it feels like it has a lot of very, very top end and very, very little of the bottom end. It doesn't sound as full. It's just, it looks like it's crossed at maybe like 4 or 5K, but in reality it's crossed at 1K. That's number 2, number 1, number 4. Yeah, so you can see that number 4 is very, very low in level. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let you to listen for like good 10-15 seconds on each number, and you're going to see me pressing the buttons. Cool. So this is like part 1 of the experiment, where I listened only to the tweeters, and there's no processing, no EQ, no nothing. It's just they playing raw. So what I want to do now, because as I explain subjectively, what I hear is that these two sound very, very nice, very natural, very flat. This doesn't sound as nice, it doesn't sound as bright, and this one sounds like it has a lot of high frequencies and not enough lower frequencies. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to take very quick sweeps with a microphone from my listening position. Actually, I might do like a spatial average just to like incorporate all the fractions and everything. And we're going to see if the measurements are kind of correlate with what I heard and I described. And hopefully you heard that as well. So let me take some measurements and we're going to analyze them. Okay, I did the measurements, and while I was doing the measurements, I thought that it's going to be a very good idea for you to listen to the pink noise, because the measurements are very different. We're going to go through them, but just to listen to the pink noise, because on music it sounds a bit different. So number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. And again through all of them. Yeah, so you can hear that they sound very different. Now, the measurements, what I'm going to do, so you can see there's no like major reflections or anything. There's no like edge diffraction or baffle step or whatever. It's just like they're good measurements, no issues there. The only thing that I want to do, I'm going to apply 1/3 of a smoothing just to make it look a bit nicer to analyze. And here we have, that's number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. So I'm gonna untick number 4 and 3 and leave 1 and 2. So 1 and 2, I did say that they sound very, very similar, with a lot of sparkle and top end, and you can see it here. So the only difference is the level between them. So number 2, the green one, is ceramic, which has a bit more level, and the beryllium one is the red one, so it has a bit less level. But the sounds, like the tonal balance, they sound very, very similar. There are slight differences between them. Maybe you can hear that in level, but they sound very, very similar. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove, let's remove this one. And the third one is SB19 is this one, the Silk Dome tweeter. And you can see, if I remove this, it's super, super flat. Like down to 1K, it's literally, this is a 5 dB scale, plus minus 1 dB. Super, super flat all the way up. And if you compare it to number 1 or number 2, doesn't matter which one, as I mentioned, number 1 and 2 sound brighter, and they actually, that's why, because you have plus 5 dB on both of them, plus 3 to 5 dB on both of them compared to these. So the difference is, again, because of the level on the top end, not because of the material itself. So that's why, and I said that this one sounds a bit more full at the bottom end. So when you compare this, like the curves themselves, 1 and 2 is kind of a rising curve, and this is totally flat. So when you like kind of perceive the sound, this sounds a bit more fuller because it has more energy here, even if it's flat and sounds more fuller. But compared to this one, this doesn't have this energy here at 1K. So that's why it sounds a bit more brighter and like sparkly or whatever. So this is this, and number 4 is the ring radiator, the top one. And as I said, that I feel that it doesn't have any energy at the bottom, and like it has like a rising curve, that everything is on the top and nothing on the bottom. And here we have number 4, and it's exactly, and the level is lower. So the level is much lower than the rest, and you can see it plays, yeah, as I said, it sounds like it's crossed at like 3 or 4K. But in reality, it is crossed at 1K. It's just, it doesn't play low, this tweeter, at all. So the level is lower, and as you can see, it is flat-ish, but like when you perceive the sound, you can feel there's nothing here, and you can hear only the top end. So from this, you can see, if I'm gonna enable all 4 tweeters, that all of them have very different frequency responses. And this is why they sound different. They don't sound different because of the material or because of my baffle or like reflections or whatever. They sound different because of this. So this is, as I mentioned, like step 1, just to see how they do. And I knew that something like this is going to happen because I knew that the level is not going to be the same between them, because as I mentioned in my previous video with the amplifiers in the car, you cannot compare anything if you don't level match it. And this is not level matched. And obviously, when you have a difference, like even like this 50 and close to 55, 5 dB difference, or 3 dB difference, or like -2, obviously you're gonna hear it. So this is not a very fair comparison. The most fair comparison might be between 1 and 2, but even then, this level of 2-3 dB will be audible, and it's just because of the level, not because of the tweeter construction or material or anything. So next step in this experiment is, because now what I have one channel of the DSP amplifier going into all 4 tweeters, and I'm switching between them. Now what I will need to do is I need to have every single tweeter active on an active channel, level match them, and try to EQ them to the same curve. I don't know how it's going to be with the number 4, because number 4, it doesn't play low. It doesn't play low at all. So I'm not sure how low I can push it. Or maybe what I'm going to do, I'm just going to disregard it from the listenings like altogether, and we're going to listen to the Silk Dome SB19, the beryllium, and the ceramic. It's just these 3, because these would be very easy to level match. If I'm just going to remove this, the only thing I really need to do is this slope might influence the sound as well. So I might need to lower the crossover on the SB19 just to cover this, like to make it a bit more same like others. And these levels, I just need to bring it down either with a shell filter or with a very wide EQ band. Just bring it down to match it. But for this, I need to rearrange the wiring so that I could still use this flippy button that I have, but each would have to be on a separate amplifier channel. But yeah, this was my quick listening test, and again, this is my perfect listening room with all the sound treatment and bass traps and refractors and everything. Yeah, I don't know what to say, guys. I'm trying to show how to do things on extreme budget where you don't have to have big investment and everything. Feel free to disregard this altogether. Because obviously it's not C baffle, CA baffle, whatever it's called. It's not perfect listening room, whatever. But I just want to show you how it is, and that the differences that you hear mainly is not because of different materials of the tweets, it's not basically of different constructions, but mainly because of the frequency response. Now, if you're going to have exactly the same frequency response, are they going to sound different? Maybe. And this is what exactly we're going to find out in the next video, when I'm going to figure out how to feed all the channels active and how I can switch them actively. So I'm going to put that song back again, and I'm going to give it to you to listen for the remaining of the video. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one.